Let's talk about these Freedom Truckers. Roughly 50,000 truck drivers formed a 45-mile-long Freedom Convoy. Pigpen and Rubber Duck were allegedly there. They are headed to Ottawa to protest the Canadian government's COVID mandate for drivers crossing over the U.S.-Canada border. They now have to have a vaccine. And unexpectedly, Elon Musk has joined the fray here. In a tweet, Musk says, quote, "If you scare people enough, they will demand removal of freedom. This is the path to tyranny." Not these truckers have anything to say about it. Let's welcome in our panel to talk more about this. Attorney and Republican strategist, Turning Point USA contributor Aaron Elmore, founder of the We the People wine. Ryan Coyne is here as well, and host of Stacy on the Right on Sirius XM. Stacy Washington, who's been absent from this program for a while, but great to have you back, Stacy.
Thanks.
I think I'll just start with this simple question. How did Justin Trudeau get elected or reelected, Stacy? He barely had enough votes here, and if the election were held today, I would imagine he would probably lose.
So what I think, John, we're seeing it, and this is happening in California as well. When you have single party rule with no input from any other side, then it dulls the senses of the individuals who are actually receiving the information and are responsible for making the decisions about who's going to govern. And so the people there know that things aren't right. They want something different, but they don't know how to get it. And so with Justin Trudeau, they went on looks. They went on charisma, which, you know, he's an attractive man for some people. He doesn't do anything for me. But I think there's a dichotomy, like a huge split between what he does and what he looks like. And so now that people understand that, maybe they'll vote differently. But I thought the same thing about Gavin Newsom, and he was reelected. So it's like a psychosis that people come under, and I don't know how they get out of it.
Well, I think it might have something to do with the fact that Justin Trudeau grew up the son of a Canadian prime minister in a privileged life. I mean, he's got this blackface incident and dressed in, I think, traditional Indian garb as well. Cultural appropriation is his thing. But Aaron, you know, these truck drivers, he obviously doesn't understand how important they are, not just to Canada, but to the United States as well. These are the people that bring the food to our grocery stores, and both Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden making it harder on them to do their jobs.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Both Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau should be ashamed, especially for the hypocrisy here in the United States, that you can come across the border illegally and get basically a get out of jail free card and have a life of leisure and luxury and not have to be vaccinated. But the people that are working hard in serving this country as the true essential workers, our truck drivers, are now being punished for working throughout the pandemic, for serving the American people, getting our food to grocery stores on time, saving Christmas, which Joe Biden took total and all credit for. And it's really shameful to see that hypocrisy. And that's why people like Justin Trudeau should not be getting reelected. When they are forcing the masks and forcing the vaccine mandates, the American people have proven time and time again that this is not what they want. It's your body, your choice, especially with the hypocrisy at the border. Hopefully we'll see better next time when the Canadian Prime Minister is up for re-election or we see someone new into the mix.
I think Elon Musk, Ryan, maybe just trying to sell some of those electric trucks. I don't know. But, you know, he seems to understand the importance of the trucking industry. That's why he's getting into those driverless trucks, I guess, maybe down the road here. But this is a real issue. And again, I think we see where the elites like Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, they're completely out of touch with the working class folks.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have Justin Trudeau, who, as you mentioned, is the son of a former prime minister, calling 50,000 truck drivers a fringe group. They're not a fringe group. They are critical infrastructure in the middle of a global supply chain crisis. Justin Trudeau is going to have a real problem on his hands unless he starts respecting their opinion as soon as things start disappearing from the shelves, which, as we've seen across the United States, Canada, and in other countries, it's already starting to happen.
It is. And, you know, I feel for these people, too, that are hunkering down for this blizzard in the Northeast, and hopefully they were able to get the milk and the bread and whatever supplies they need before the storm. But let's transition now and talk about Sarah Palin, who is in New York City. She's there for a very important libel case against the New York Times, but she's been sidelined kind of because of a COVID test that came back positive. But she is out dining in restaurants, much to the horror, Stacy, of New Yorkers. You know, there's not a lot of proof here that the masks are working to stop the Omicron spread. The vaccines don't seem to be stopping it. Obviously, there are some questions about a person being out and about when they have a test recently. But what are your thoughts on this, Sarah Palin?
Well, so there was a teensy-weensy bit of a backlash, if I can throw some British nomenclature in there, when CNN's host, Cuomo, he was out running around in public, mask-free, after he had a positive diagnosis. But that was back with original COVID, which was much more frightening than Omicron. So we don't know if she's asymptomatic positive or if she previously had COVID and now she's testing positive because you remain positive for about 90 days after you have it. We don't really know any more details. So I'm wondering why they're so interested in her. Is it because of the lawsuit? Why are they making such a big deal out of her actions? There are a lot of things going on in this country that are far greater in importance than what Sarah Palin is doing and what restaurant she's sitting at. Sorry, I fail to see the relevance to our greater conversation in what she's doing and what her test was.
Interesting you bring up the Chris Cuomo thing, because there were some people that were skeptical that he even tested positive at the time. Maybe he just wanted to work from his house in the Hamptons, Aaron. But how do we feel about Sarah Palin out there living her best life after this COVID test?
I want to go back to the days when medical information was private and the HIPAA laws were still in place and being enforced. We shouldn't know who's positive and who's not positive. And if you don't have any symptoms, I would say do not take a test unless you know you're going to be around the elderly or the infirm. But perhaps she's following the CDC guidelines. Haven't they shrinked their requirements if you're vaccinated to only about 5 days? So we don't know the time frame here, and we don't know exactly the chain of custody with this test and when everything occurred. Perhaps she's completely compliant. So let's not assume the worst here. Innocent until proven guilty for Sarah Palin. She's out dining at restaurants. We should probably assume she is vaccinated. So hey, I say she's compliant with CDC guidelines and living her best life in New York City in those dining huts that are rife with huge subway rats and homeless people. So cheers, Sarah Palin. I hope you remain safe.
Yeah, no, Aaron brings up a good point about the CDC guidelines here. I don't think Sarah Palin would be dining out if she really felt bad. She's also been just lambasted by the judge in this libel case too, for being there and testing positive. I do think you obviously also see in the media coverage, how these positive tests are treated differently. Again, we can argue whether she should be out or not, but when Sarah Palin has COVID, oh my gosh, how dare she get sick? But anybody else, no big deal.
Right. New York has a lot bigger problems than Sarah Palin dining at some high-end restaurant in the Upper East Side. It's called the 6 train. I used to take it every day. Anybody thinks that Sarah Palin running around New York testing positive, I'm sure she is a problem. I'm sure she's abiding by the CDC guidelines. And listen, it's a restaurant. I'm sure that she wore her mask from the hostess stand to the table. And everyone knows that as long as you do that, there's no spreading of COVID. So
that's right.
I don't think it's quite a big deal.
That's right. As long as you're below about 4 feet height-wise, sitting down, COVID does not apparently, circulate there.
All right, on an airplane, it still does. When you're sitting on the airplane, you better wear that mask.
You better wear that mask. All right, everyone stand by because Meme Team is coming up in our next hour. And boy, do we have some good ones this week. All right.